So it's a bit chilly today, so I'm making a Irish stew. And I thought I'd share with you something that's been going around my mind for the last few days. I was thinking about the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And I'm sure you're such a clever audience that most of you know what that is. But for the ones who don't, I'll just try and explain it as I understand it, because it's complicated, lots of maths and physics and stuff. But the gist of it is, when you've got a scientist doing an experiment and he's observing the experiment, he affects the results of the experiment. So in a way, you are part of the picture of the experiment. You're influencing the experiment by just being there and observing it. And when they're looking at little tiny particles, quarks and mesons and all those quantum-sized particles, these things are affected by the person observing. And so it's like really hard to be objective, to look at something objectively, because just the fact that you're observing the experiment is changing the experiment. And it's not it's actually, they found out it's true, it happens. And I was thinking, if one day if you think you're a nobody, if you've got one of those days when you're feeling a bit inadequate, but I suppose everyone then who's alive in the world today, they're interacting with the universe and making the universe different by being there. Because by being there, certain things in the universe are different. People observing the universe. It's making me think is when one person dies, when the consciousness disappears, I wonder if thinking about that Heisenberg uncertainty principle, does that mean the universe changes a little bit when somebody dies? Stir that meat up, we don't want to burn that while we're babbling away. Yeah, and if that's true, then do things like people saying prayers, that must have an influence too, going by the same sort of thing. And it makes you wonder how far it goes. Kind of interesting in the way I was thinking. The reason I was thinking about it was yesterday I was watching a little mouse in the garden, and then the cat caught the mouse, and after playing with it for half an hour, the cat killed the mouse, and it just died, the mouse, it almost died in my hands. No, it didn't really. I watched it dying though, I watched the eyes glazing over. And so that mouse's little perception of the universe, when he left the gig, when he left the building, that mouse, did the universe subtly change? Now, it don't matter at all, really. It's just a little speculation and a little way of playing about with thoughts, It makes me think about things like having bad thoughts about things. It can perhaps manifest itself into reality due to this Heisenberg uncertainty principle, because you're influencing things just by how you think about them. So I wonder if that means, like, if you're having some thoughts and you think they are secret thoughts deep inside your head. But like the NSA, maybe there's a kind of universal NSA which can see inside your head too, because every little action cause a reaction. And this is probably just some kind of psychobabble, you know what I mean? But just like thinking about things like this for some reason. We have all these superstitions and sayings, and sometimes you wonder where they come from. And one of them is, speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Maybe that's got something to do with that Heisenberg principle. Another thing I was thinking about is I've been doing lots of photography recently, and I was thinking about objects that you photograph, and all you're doing is catching the photons that are reflected from them things. So basically, everything's a series of little mirrors. If you take a picture of that celery stick, it's not actually the celery stick you're taking a picture of the reflection of the light from the celery stick. And that's the particular properties of the celery mirror, is that it gives off a reflection that looks like celery and is the colour of celery. And that's the same with everything really. If the sun reflecting off a mountain, the mountain is a kind of a mountain type mirror. Water is water type mirror. A human face is a human face type of mirror. It's all about reflecting light, and it's just about different properties of different mirrors. And I'm sure there's something profound in there somewhere. I haven't found it yet, and I'll just keep letting it tick on in my subconscious till it comes to me what it is. It might be something to do with Plato and finding out what the actual, Plato says you can never really see anything or touch anything. All you can see is the reflections of it, and the reflections of the light, or when you touch it with your hands. This cucumber, for example, when you touch it with your hands, like your molecules of the atoms of your fingers and the atoms of the cucumber are not actually touching, but it's just like the force fields. You're touching the force field of the cucumber, and the force field of the cucumber is cucumber-esque. But you can't actually touch the cucumber, and you can't actually see it, because all you can see is a reflection of light that's bouncing off the cucumber attributed mirror. And I think if you try and think in this abstract way, you might see a new way of looking at things. I wish I could understand the language of mathematics, because this abstract way of looking at things, as I was just talking about, there's already been a language made, and that's mathematics, but I can't get it. I've tried my very best to understand it, but I just cannot, I can't grip it, I can't get it. I just have vague premonitions about things, but actual use of mathematics to describe things I find absolutely incomprehensible. And that's the trouble, is it's like a lot of those mathematical ideas cannot be put into everyday pictures, because it's a different it's a different ball game altogether. It's a different way of looking at things. It's abstract, isn't it? And I always think people who are good at maths, I don't mean people who are good at adding, calculating, adding up numbers and stuff, but people who can actually understand quadratic equations and calculus and stuff like that. For me, they're almost like superhuman beings. But I'm afraid this time around, it's not my forte. I'll never understand it. So that's the Irish stew sorted. Potatoes, tomatoes in there. So yeah, back to that Heisenberg thing. So I've noticed there seems to be a lot of prevalence at the moment on people who get anxiety attacks and panic attacks, and I don't know why it is. And I had a panic attack once in my life when I was picking grapes, and we got taken to the field, and I was took to the field in a back of a truck, and it was all enclosed inside, and I was in there with loads of gypsies, and I got a bit of a panic attack in there once. But I think that was more claustrophobia. But I seem to be reading a lot of people about people who just get anxiety attacks and panic attacks. And I was reading something about somebody who has them, or a guy I vaguely know, and he said ways to combat them is like concentrate on 5 things, how they look, concentrate on 3 things, how they touch, how they feel, concentrate on 2 things, how they smell. And it's a way of grounding yourself and bringing yourself back to reality. And I thought that Heisenberg principle one might be good as well. You know, if you think about that, then you know that you make a difference to the universe as much as anyone else does. You know, you're just as important as anybody else. And you never know, you could take it to the absolutely ludicrous situation when there's all the people who die on the earth, then does the universe disappear? Of course it doesn't. If no one's looking there to see it, does it exist? Have a great day.